Breaking news! AMG releases a databank download for the Wisdom of the Council Squad pack. Our intrepid reporters discuss.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Bombad Tactics channel. I've got Lee here today for a new type of video, a rapid reaction, because we've got spoilers for Wisdom of the Council, and it could have been more rapid, but because it's a new format, there were some learning difficulties, and we're recording this a second time, but we've learned from our mistakes. Hopefully it will be great, and you'll get that quick analysis. So hello Lee, thank you for joining.
Hello. Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Available not just once, but twice now, so very much appreciated. We'll put the cards up on the screen. You can obviously check out the article on AMG's website. We won't go through everything in detail. Just pause if you really want to know all the stuff. But anyways, let's dive right into it. And I think it makes most sense to start with Ki-Adi himself, because he really has some interesting synergy in light of the rest of his box. He's an 8 with 3 force, which is all pretty standard. Nothing too much to see there. But when I look at his unit card, I really see kind of a Plo plus in a sense. He doesn't do all the things Plo does, but he's very toolsy, much like Plo. Moving friends, bringing force push, and a deterrent to attack. But what I really love is this identity, where he kind of... We love Lumi. We're on record that we love Lumi. We kind of have a Lumi light ability. It's more tag restricted, but get a kill, get a heal, and a dash. And then Jedi can sometimes get cheaper force abilities, active and reactive. I assume that's what stood out to you, Lee? Anything else?
Yeah. No, I mean, those are definitely the primaries, I think. Lumi solves a lot of problems for the Gar by helping with mobility outside of just, like, wounding people, and I feel like Ki-Adi essentially brings the same package. Obviously more tag restricted, like you said, but definitely the strongest part of his kit right there in his identity.
And we're going to really dive into some combos in a few minutes. At the end of this, we'll put some lists out there that maybe you want to try, and we'll kind of really talk about some of the cool things you can do with his identity in that with some concrete examples. And I think I want to talk about his Makashi stance first. If I had to sum this up, I would say reliable is what you're getting from the Makashi stance.
Shove on 1, easy crits with Makashi, super cool. And the potential for triple shove is also very nice on any primary.
It seems like a very, standard kind of attack profile, pretty good defensive profile, a little weak at range with only 4 dice, but good for shoves, good for conditions, and that early reposition. Versus Xian. What pops out to you about the Xian stance?
I think the big thing for me is that if we think of Makashi as the stance that sort of has a very reliable set of crits to it, Xian is when you swing for the fences. With that amazing expertise chart, where you're just like trying to push as many hits through as possible, which is great.
I don't think we've seen something like this before. We've seen people get, 2 hits on 1 expertise or 3 on 2 or whatever, but to consistently scale up with like X+1, very cool. It raises the ceiling a lot. The stance itself, it's just heals and damage, so it's less versatile, I would say. There's a shove, there's a free force push, which is really good, but it's kind of doing less things than his Makashi stance. The defense is still really good, a bit more balanced, no crit mitigation. I think both stances have a place, and that is really awesome, because I think there's so many primaries right now where you always are going to be in one stance for like 90% of the game. Maybe you deploy in one stance, spend the rest of your game in the other. Here, I think reps and experience, some players will really show their skill with knowing when to use which stance for Ki-Adi.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like the idea that both stances are very, very valid, and I could absolutely see certain opponents being a better fit for one over the other, and yeah, that's very novel to see.
Then we've got someone especially cool. We got a bit of a tease of this, I think, back with it was Mini Stravaganza, where they said Shaak Ti was going to bring a force, and of course she does. Really cool to finally see that ability used. It's been sitting there as a 0 on all other cards. She does cost 5, which is kind of a new thing for Republic. And I'm really into that because we'll see that we get a 3-point support here, but I'm already playing a point down in Law Republic lists because ARF are so good. So swapping out that 4 PC secondary for, well, we'll see what she does. But, you know, a very good secondary is exciting.
Absolutely. I think this is going to be a bit of a running theme also with the Jedi Padawans, but like this box feels like with the 5-3 flip being just one where you're going to be able to slot something in no matter who it is that you're playing, whether it's like a Mace Anakin where it's like a 6 and a 7, which gets into this weird spot, or if you're playing, hey, I really want to bring ARF and I'm just going to bring someone like Rex, then I'm playing a point down, so that doesn't always feel great. So Shaak Ti feels like a really good piece to put in.
For sure. And she feels great because if we look at her unit card here, she does everything. She moves people. She's got diceless displacement. She's got some extra attack tech with fainting blow, though it does conflict with coordinated fire timing since both trigger off the attack. So you can't necessarily use one. You can't use them both at the same time. It has to be one or the other, but that's okay. And then she's always going to have her expertise. Only 8 health is a bit of a downside, but when you can't be exposed, that certainly helps. So really, really versatile kit. I'm usually on a secondary looking to move friends or have diceless, and she has both.
Yeah. And I really like the idea that the friend that she can move doesn't necessarily have to be just another Gar, so there is some potential there for, like, you bring someone who isn't Gar, who is the mercenary. She can really help with that mobility issue.
Yeah, we don't have a CAD list later, but that is something I've seen tossed around as far as using her with bounty hunters, since CAD is 9 and can take a 5-cost secondary because she can provide some out of activation movement for them. I guess that's like a cool little nod to the fact that she was the one stationed on Camino. That kind of, I guess she's the one working with contractors for the Republic. So it's good. What do you think of her stance? Form for Utaru.
I really like that she has a shove on 2. Easy access to shoves is always nice. And I realized that the 2 damage reposition on 1-2 is sort of a weird space because it doesn't go any further than that. But in those situations where you only get a result or 2 down the tree, sometimes just like being able to get to that easy reposition can turn her into this like rocket of a ship, just to fly across the board, which I like.
Her expertise, I mean, hit to crit is something new that we haven't seen before. That's kind of the opposite of what we saw with Ki-Adi's Chien stance, where it's just a lot of hits really raises the ceiling. This raises the floor. It's cool. Obviously, just straight up crit would be better, but for someone who's never going to be disarmed, I can't complain with this offensive or defensive expertise. And finally, we've got Padawans, who, as we kind of alluded to earlier, a 3-cost support, opening up possibilities. You know, they live in this world where 3-cost Republic supports so far. We have ARF, who are incredible, and we have 501st, who are 50 worst. So these guys operate a zone. If they're just passable, it opens up things like, Vader Mace or something like that. Or running an 8 with Shaak Ti, and then a 7, perhaps, which we'll kind of see later. But what pops out to you from the unit card of the Padawans?
The really weird thing for me, like, I do like a lot of their kit, but the biggest thing for me
Kit is the next release, Lee. That's Mr. Fisto.
Look at these jokes here. It's the tags. Seeing a Padawan support tag is neat. Seeing a Jedi support tag is neat. And obviously, like, Gar, Jedi, and Padawan, great tags to have.
They bring tags that we haven't seen on supports yet, which really helps with synergy for a number of characters, as you were alluding to. I like the heal at the start of their turn.
Yes.
This gives an actual heal, so they could heal a friend, or if they're pinned, strained, they can remove it before they activate, which is really handy. And they can also heal a lot from their combat tree. So with only 7 health and a kind of middling defense profile, they will get one shot a fair bit. But if they start the turn with like 6 damage and a strain, there's a world where they finish that turn fresh. You know, healed the strain, 2 attacks, each healing 3 potentially. It won't happen a lot, but it's possible. If you don't kill them, they can pop back up. What else do you like about the attack tree?
Definitely a shove on two. Really like that. I like that they have the potential for a double shove. So if, for instance, we paired them with someone who could give them extra dice and melee attacks, they become a much more reliable solution to things like steadfast, which is nice. And yeah, I think again with all the sort of innate healing that this unit presents, again they might pair well with someone who say causes them to take a little bit of damage in exchange for extra melee dice.
Okay, so now let's kind of bring it all together here and talk about a few lists. So what's the first list that you've brought for us today?
Yeah, the first one that jumped out at me just sort of uses the entire box in its entirety. So it's Ki-Adi and Shaak Ti and the Padawans. And then you pair that with another person who likes Padawans. So that would be Plo Koon.
Oh, he hates
Anakin loves Padawans. But Plo, Snips, and then I think the third support slot can be kind of interesting. ARF are obviously a go-to, but I could definitely see a world where you bring bounty hunters. Because they have the potential to tag into Jedi or into Republic. You have to choose one or the other, and you don't.
Mm-hmm.
But
And they
there
are
are
mercenaries,
situations.
so
They are mercenaries.
Shaak Ti could move them. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. But the one caveat about the list is obviously I've just described 5 units of 6 who are melee only. But I think that between the two primaries that you have, both wanting to advance whole units or being able to advance Padawans and getting a little dash themselves, that's really nice. I think you can sort of present like this sort of like slow, steady tidal wave of movement with a list like that.
I think the amount of melee is going to be kind of the crux of list building when it comes to Ki-Adi, because he loves to have Jedi around, but they don't have ranged attacks. And especially in a world where like odds exists, I really get nervous, even for melee-only units. I'll present a couple lists here with 4. 5 is a lot. In a showdown event, maybe it's a little tough to stomach when you are locked into one list, but in a premier event where you can flex in and out of the Ki-Adi box as needed, depending on what objectives your opponent has, that could be quite strong. We joked about Anakin earlier, but my first list actually does have Anakin. He's kind of out of vogue, kind of has always been since maybe the first month or two of the game, because he does have a lot of weaknesses, honestly, if we're looking at Anakin. He's not very fast. Ki-Adi helps that because he can move Anakin up before he activates. Anakin has a lot of force to use his abilities, while Ki-Adi can make that a bit cheaper. And then Anakin can't move a friend. Well, now if Anakin gets a kill, there can be a heal and a dash for a friendly Jedi. If you can kind of offset his weaknesses, then that helps on that side, and you still have the ability to move the struggle tracker, which can be incredibly strong.
Absolutely. I think Ki-Adi, like, as much as I like Anakin as a very thematic character, I think he's got a lot of shortcomings in Shatterpoint, and Ki-Adi just seems to, like, solve almost every single one of them, just by way of identity, without needing any extra help, which is great.
And then, for my final list, I brought in Ki-Adi with Vader. And now this works on a few levels. So, Ki-Adi, obviously, if we're looking again at that Xian stance, he has a lot of heals and really good expertise. So if we take 2 Vader damage, we could still run the bottom of his tree and get those 2 heals to get back to full, while doing 8 damage, a shove, and a force push. I don't usually like to think in terms of running the tree, but when you're rolling 11 dice with that expertise, it starts to get pretty reasonable, especially if you have ARF around. Vader's obviously not a Jedi, but he is Galactic Republic, so he could if he gets a kill, he can dash any Jedi, which includes Obi-2, who we have as our secondary, and then any Jedi gets reduced cost for actives and reactives, which includes Mind Trick.
Ridiculous.
1 Force Mind Tricks, sign me up. And for that reason, I am also going to call this third list the proceed with caution. You might lose friends if you play this list too much, get too good at it. Not that I actually advocate for list shaming. I don't think that's good to do, but it could be a bit of a negative experience if someone's more looking for more casual games.
I do really like that for it's really hard to move OB2 in most situations. And you can definitely get yourself in a position where, like, I've got OB2 contesting a middle point on the board, and I've got his bubble out helping me out, and then he gets shoved off the point by a stray shot, or maybe a two-bodied support that manages to get a shove through, and now you just have sort of this dead unit that you either have to wait for a Shatterpoint for, or wait for a reactivation for. And with someone like Ki-Adi around, like, you do have a solution for that.
I think this will probably be one of the best Ki-Adi lists, but I think in general, anything with Ki-Adi, he opens up so much, and you just kind of need reps. I think especially if we're for something like your Ki-Adi Plo list or even the Ki-Adi Anakin list, they might not be super easy pick up and play lists, but with experience in positioning and really utilizing all the abilities he has, he's going to be a very strong unit, and I'm very excited for February when this box is released.
Me as well. I think it's going to be huge for Gar, but just good for the game in general, so very excited.
Alrighty. Well, that's it. Tell me how you liked the initial rapid reactions video, and keep a lookout for more. Hopefully we get the aforementioned Kit Fisto before too long. See ya, everybody.
All right. Take care, everyone.